Welcome, everybody. Good evening and welcome. My name is Megan Reisky. I'm joining you from Fairfield University's Alumni Engagement and Annual Giving Division within the Office of Advancement. And I'm truly grateful to have you with us tonight. And we are so proud to bring together our alumni, families, and friends of Fairfield for conversations that highlight meaningful work happening across our university. Before we begin tonight's incredible discussion, I wanted to just give you a few notes. One, this evening's webinar is being recorded and will be shared afterwards for those who would like to revisit the conversation or pass it along. Later on, we do have some time planned to open the floor for Q&A, and at which time we'll ask you to share questions and comments for reaction within the Q&A feature. Throughout this webinar, you can use the chat feature to talk to each other, but we'll be responding to questions within the Q&A. And lastly, friends, if you would please keep yourself on mute and cameras off throughout our discussion, just so we limit our background noise, that would be very appreciated. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Rob Nazarian, who's the Associate Professor of Physics and the Founding Director of Fairfield's Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies. Through his leadership, the center is advancing impactful research and creating new opportunities for faculty and students to engage with critical environmental challenges on a global scale. So, Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Megan. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight with everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is the first webinar at what we hope will be an annual tradition for the center. The center started in fall of 2024 as Fairfield University's first center that is singularly devoted to research on campus. And the administration and faculty really developed the center in response to just how many faculty and students we had doing research in climate, coastal, and marine studies. Over the past 3 years, we've had over 120 students at Fairfield, undergraduate and graduate, researching climate, coastal, and marine issues, whether it's in the biology lab, the physics lab, doing policy work in the business school, across campus, and over 30 faculty that are doing this work as well. And so the center and its founding was really a way to elevate and celebrate this work. We're so excited at the response we've had over the past 2 years. We've had an outpouring from students, faculty, alumni, and friends of the university, and it's so special to be able to share that work with you. Now, tonight, we're able to continue that celebration by bringing in our friend, six-time Emmy Award winner, Tom Fitz. We're going to get to that conversation in just a moment, but before we do that, we'd like to start with some Tom Fitz trivia. So we know we have some movie buffs joining us tonight. I know we've all seen so many of Tom's films. So we have a few questions to break the ice and to get a sense of some of the work that Tom has done in his really extensive portfolio. So let's start with the first question, which is, which of the following films has Tom worked on? So we're going to give you a few seconds, I should say, to cast your vote. Please go ahead and only vote once and figure out which of those films Tom has worked on. And please, no Google searches or IMDb here.
Is it cheating if I vote?
No, please do, Tom. All right, we've got some answers coming in. Give it another few seconds before we end our poll. All right, let's end it here. So we have a clear winner, all of the above, which is the correct answer. So Tom has worked on all of these films and many more that couldn't even fit on this poll. And so we really are quite excited to have him here to share his experiences. Okay, let's go to our second question. So in addition to the work that Tom has done on freelance films, he also founded Schoolyard Films. And in Schoolyard Films, he's done significant work on ocean plastics. How much plastic is there in the ocean? We'll talk more about ocean plastics in a few minutes when we get into our conversation, but please vote and then we'll go over our answer. All right, just another second or two. Okay, let's end our poll. And so we've got a tie here between 34 to 75 million tons and 75 to 199 million tons. And unfortunately, the answer here is 75 to 199 million tons. It varies here. There's a range based on the way that you estimate ocean plastic, but that's a significant amount of plastic in the ocean. And part of the reason why Tom and his team at Schoolyard Films are working on this new series on ocean plastics. Okay, let's go to question number 3, which has to do with arguably my favorite clip that Tom has shot. In the famous clip from Planet Earth 2, there is a pygmy three-toed sloth that is swimming between the mangroves. It's one of my favorites. And the question is, why was that sloth swimming between the mangroves? To escape a predator hunting it, to reach a distant island with better food, to search for a mate, or to cool down after overheating? A few seconds to answer this question, then we'll reveal the results. Just another second or so. Okay, let's stop our polling here. The highest vote getter here is to cool down after overheating in the canopy, but in fact, it's to search for a mate. This is a really great clip. I'd encourage you to watch it on YouTube after tonight's call. Really fantastic work that Tom and his crew did. But the sloth is searching for a mate, and alas, the sloth is unsuccessful. Let's go to question 4.
That poor
In Frozen
guy.
Planet's narwhal scene, male narwhals are shown crossing and rubbing their tusks together, a behavior called tusking. What do scientists now believe this is most likely for? Is it to establish dominance over rivals, to get rid of barnacles and parasites off of the tusks, to share sensory information about the water, or is it to break thin ice and to get breathing holes? Another few seconds for this, and then we'll reveal the right answer. Another second. Okay, let's go ahead and end our poll here. The highest vote getter here, scraping barnacles, not quite. Well, in fact, it's hard to say why narwhals engage in this tusking behavior. Scientists' best guess right now is that it's to share information about water temperature and salinity, which is the third option. But very much in the vein of the Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies, it's an active area of research. Scientists are still working on this and understanding this. And so this is the exciting part about research, is that we're moving closer and closer every day to answering some of these questions in terms of climate, coastal, and marine studies. Excellent. Let's get to our last question, which is specific now to the Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies. You'll recall I gave an overview of the center just a few minutes ago. And so my question is, how many faculty and students have conducted this type of research in the past 5 years? So how many faculty and students have conducted work in climate, coastal, and marine studies at Fairfield? Not only while the center has started since 2024, but even preceding the start of the center. Let's take a few seconds to answer this, then we'll reveal the answer. Okay, let's go ahead and close our poll. We've got a clear winner here, over 30 faculty and 120 students. Everyone was listening right at our intro. That is the correct answer. So this work is clearly impacting so many students and faculty on campus, and we're so excited to support this work. And we have no better spokesperson for this work than our friend Tom Fitz. Before I introduce him and bring him on screen tonight, we'd like to play a clip from Frozen Planet. Just a few minutes ago, we asked that question about narwhals and the behavior of tusking. And so there's no better way to introduce Tom than showing you some of his work. So let's go ahead. Let's show our clip from Frozen Planet, and we'll introduce our guest, Tom Fitz.
Even the ice around the coast is starting to break. The first cracks here are eagerly awaited by some. narwhals. The unicorns of the north are on a mission to reach the new fishing grounds in the bays that have been frozen up all winter but are now opening up. To get to them, the narwhals must travel down leads, temporary cracks in the ice. But these new roads could close at any time, cutting off the air that they need to breathe. The road narrows until there's barely room for one-way traffic. Then, a surprise. Narwhals coming from the other direction. It's a standoff. Each team faces an armory of sharp tusks. Finally, one side concedes, and everyone continues in the same direction. Within a week, the remaining bays break wide open, and the narwhals turn their attention to social matters. No one knows exactly what the narwhal's tusk is for. Some say it's used for fencing, yet these exchanges are too gentle to be real fights. Perhaps these encounters are to remind each animal of where it stands in narwhal society. We may never know.
Excellent. And so it's really quite an honor to introduce our guest for tonight's webinar. Tom Fitz is an American cameraman, producer, and director who has documented our planet's natural wonders for over 30 years. As a freelance cinematographer, Tom has worked for the BBC, PBS, National Geographic, and many others. He is the recipient of 4 Primetime Emmys for cinematography and 2 for Outstanding Series, as well as 2 BAFTA awards. Tom's experience and comfort working underwater are rivaled by few. He is among a small handful of cameramen who has worked in all 7 continents and 5 oceans, including under the ice in our planet's polar regions, as you just saw in the narwhal clip. He has experience with underwater ROV technology and manned submarines in waters over a mile deep. In 2008, Tom started Schoolyard Films with the belief that educating today's students about the natural world and the challenges it faces is of critical importance to tomorrow's healthy environment. With Schoolyard, Tom produces films specifically for use in K-12 classrooms that are available for free with accompanying study guide to teachers worldwide. Tom, we're so fortunate to have you joining us tonight, and I must say we're doubly honored that you've served as our inaugural podcast guest, and now you're our inaugural webinar guest. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you, Rob. I'm really honored, and yes, both times, podcast and this is sensational. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. And for all of our guests tonight, we'll share more information about the podcast, and you can listen to that episode with Tom. We'll share the information later on tonight's webinar. To dive right in, Tom, I mentioned in the Q&A that I think one of my favorite clips that you filmed is the sloth swimming to find a mate. You've had a number of amazing projects and shoots, and so I have to ask, do you have a favorite? Is there one shoot that you'll always think back on as your favorite?
Well, on one hand, it's true that I really love all the assignments, and each one is different in really fun ways. But without a doubt, working in the polar regions of the planet have given me just the most incredible adventures, and a chance to work with really, really fascinating animals. So I'm glad you showed the narwhal sequence. I would say working with the ice whales, the narwhals, belugas, and bowheads, for me, have been some of the most challenging. And sometimes, well, twice, we've had complete failures. But when things go in your favor, there's not much that's more rewarding than having success filming those kinds of animals.
Absolutely. And so when you go and you get those shots, you shared before when you were visiting Fairfield, for instance, that the first shoot out with the narwhals, I believe, you were not able to get the footage that you needed. And so you were able to do that in your second shot. That makes it that much more memorable, right? Being able to get it if it's been a challenging shoot,
Yeah.
and all the richer for getting it.
That is the truth. I mean, after after the monumental failure that we had for a BBC series called Nature's Great Events, where we spent a month living on the ice with our Inuit guides and working hard, and we got nothing. I mean, just truly nothing. The ice was breaking up differently than we thought it would. The animals were just in other places. And so I was relieved when the BBC called back again and gave me the same assignment for Frozen Planet, and we took a different approach to it, and we did much better.
We're all the richer for it. It's fantastic footage that you got in that shoot. And so that gets us to this idea of challenges in wildlife filmmaking. So both behind the camera, but also from the production, the broadcasting side. What are some of the challenges that you face as a wildlife filmmaker? And how do you go about responding to those challenges?
Do in the kinds of films that I guess gravitate towards, that I really love, they're the behavior driven films. And so the hardest part about them is simply having the crew, the team, be given enough time, to get the goods. And so I would say on average, those shoots last for 3 weeks. Certainly there's, some can be quicker, some in the polar regions tend to be longer. But it takes that amount of time. You do have to be patient, and you might think, oh, I'm going to get this and this today, and it usually doesn't work out that way. But you get a few other things, and so you're chipping away for 3 solid weeks at piecing together what will eventually be a 5 minute, mini story in an hour film. So 3 weeks is a pretty good amount of time, I think, for a team to really, really focus together and give your all. And after 3 weeks, your energy might wane a little bit and you're ready for a break. But that's kind of the norm of the shoots that I've done.
Absolutely. And certainly, too, there's the time that you're spending before the shoot even happens to make sure that you're in the right locations, that you've got all of that research down to make sure that you have everything you need for that shoot to be successful. So certainly, it's a significant amount of time there working on these shoots. And so, walk us through that process of developing a shoot. You've talked that you're out in the field typically for 3 weeks, but is that the end point for you? Do you continue in the process to get it to broadcast? What's the overall cycle like when you have an assignment or you have a film that you're shooting for schoolyard? How does it go from ideation to filming to then being broadcast to viewers?
Well, so there's a big difference. If I'm if I'm hired to shoot something like what you saw with the narwhals, all the research and all the prep happens before I get kind of given a plane ticket and my logistics. And so then I go up and I do my best. And we always team up with people, local knowledge rules. I may think I know lots about some animal, and the people, whether they're scientists or they're just locals, they tend to know a lot more than I do. And so we team up with them and do our best for 3 weeks. And after that period, then my job is done. But if it's a schoolyard film, then I'm, a part of doing the research and a part of figuring out the logistics. And so I'm a part of all that goes ahead of the shoot. And then afterwards, then I'll help oversee the edit. I mean, making a good film is absolutely, it takes a village. It's a big team effort. And so for Schoolyard, I get to wear more hats and get to at least be involved in the other aspects of filmmaking, but still my real contribution to it is with the camera.
Absolutely. And so, given the role of research at the Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies, given that we are a research center to support our faculty and students at Fairfield, could you talk a little bit about the research that's done for these shoots, whether it's the filmmaking process or right before the shoot is done? What does that research process look like? You and I have spoken off camera about Schoolyard, for instance, and researching different projects before filmmakers make a proposal to Schoolyard. So what does that process look like? How long does it take? What are the considerations when researching a topic before you make the film?
So I guess it's fair to say that the researchers themselves, they may be doing years-long projects, sometimes lifelong projects, in their studies. And then from our end, the research is trying to figure out, who's doing what and what will be what hopefully will be an exciting new part of a film. Everybody wants to have new stories. And so that's part of our research, is then finding out what the science community is doing. And then, again, then once we've nailed that stuff down, to have the scientist on our team in the field is just invaluable. The partnership is so strong between wildlife filmmaking and scientists. We really, from my end, we rely on the scientists to help us with the story and help us figure out how to get that story told. And I think that we help the scientists get their hard work out to the general public. So it's a nice partnership.
Absolutely. It's an incredibly important partnership. And so could you share an experience with our viewers tonight of one type of those collaborations? So could you think of a collaboration, a partnership between your team and scientists where you were able to either advance the science or the researchers provided crucial information to make your shoot a success?
I would say, I have done a lot of whale stories over my career. And we did one in the tropics in Hawaii that was with humpback whales, and we relied heavily on Megan Jones, the chief scientist out of Maui, because the way that it works is a female orchestrates a competition amongst about 20 males, and all the males they want to be the one to the next generation, and she wants to find the biggest, baddest, toughest, strongest guy to be her mate. And so there's this wild, aggressive, fast-moving competition that goes on for hours at a time. And occasionally the female will even take a break and all the males, sort of settle down, and then after half an hour, they're at it again. In order to film that, I confess I was definitely in my head, and nervous is probably an understatement, because you have to get in front of 20 whales that are barreling down at you, and underwater, you really need the camera to be close to your subject to have the shots be, clear and dramatic. So you want to get up close. As a cameraman, you do not want to get in the way of whales that are not thinking about you. They have one thing that they're focusing on, and, you can have bones broken if you get hit by a whale. And so there's this sort of funny dance of trying to get in the right place for the shots, but be agile and fluid. And so I did it free diving, so I could move quicker. And anyway, the positioning of where the boat would put me in the water was crucial, and the scientist was absolutely running that show. And we couldn't have done it without her and her team.
It sounds like a great collaboration, and it sounds like it made for a successful shoot. That's certainly dangerous yet exhilarating to be so close to whales, free diving,
Yeah.
and getting those shots. That's incredible. Just to turn now to Schoolyard Films, which you founded, as we mentioned in the intro, in 2008. Your work behind the camera continues to evolve. You've stewarded and you've grown Schoolyard Films. Can you tell us a little bit about how it came into being? What was the catalyst for Schoolyard?
Sure. I mean, Schoolyard, I like to joke and say that Schoolyard Films started with an audience of three, and that was my three kids. I used to just go when they were little, elementary and middle school. I'd go into their classrooms and I'd bring in an hour-long David Attenborough film and show pieces, and it was just so much fun. And it wasn't just so much fun for me. I guarantee the kids were so engaged and were so enthusiastic and had a million questions. And this continued as sort of my kids got older, and I then got into going into their high school classes as well. It was just always tremendous fun. And we finally just sort of sat down and thought, if there's a way for us to contribute that kind of enthusiasm into science classes around the country, not just in my local, schools where my kids are, that maybe we could do a really, really nice thing. And so that's that. And we had never done anything like this. We knew nothing about starting a nonprofit. So it's been a real learning ground. But that was our start. We started with very small, small classrooms and going from there.
That's exciting, and how it's grown in the past 18 years. Could you tell us some about the projects that you're working on right now at Schoolyard Films, and how are these projects expanding on your work?
Okay, sure. Well, so I'll say two things. One is that we're starting this year. So I live in Florida. Florida, as you may know, is blessed with incredible water resources, a huge abundance of really amazing resources. But also, most of them have such challenges with them to manage them properly, and some of them haven't been managed properly. There's a need for real solutions. And so we're starting a sort of an open-ended series of water stories here in Florida. Our first one is on seagrass, the importance of seagrass and all the great things that it does for the planet that none of us really ever think about. So that's what we're doing on the local level. But on the bigger picture is that within the last 5 years, we've started a mentorship program. And so we support with small grants. I mean, to me, they're pretty big, but they're lean grants to make a film, a 15 to 20 minute film. We give out $30,000. And we mentor through the course of a year so that a new filmmaker, we actually don't want them to be brand new, but they are emerging filmmakers starting their careers. And so we're doing that, which is, it's a win-win all around, because we're helping a new filmmaker out. We're helping to teach them sort of storytelling chops and giving them support, and once their film is done, because we've been able to choose the topic, and choose the filmmakers and get our little thumbprint on them too, chances are they are wonderful additions to our schoolyard library. So they come back to help our K through 12 audience. But also, it's really helping us grow hugely, because now we have audiences in many, many other countries. So in these years, we've worked now in Norway and Tanzania, Palau, Costa Rica, India. We're starting one in New Zealand now, England, and so it's really helping us broaden our scope internationally. And if we can help jumpstart careers, hopefully these young filmmakers will have decades-long careers, and hopefully we're setting them up to tell important stories for a long time to come. So it's really fun. It's quite gratifying, and the films, they're not all home runs, but most of them are really, really excellent films. And so that's what we're doing on the big picture and closer to home too.
Absolutely. And I would add they're award-winning films, right? You were mentioning
Yeah.
last year you were at the Jackson Hole Film Festival, and one of the films that was supported by Schoolyard did very, very well at the festival. That's fantastic news.
Yes, yes, it actually won the Impact Award. And one of the things that we make sure that when they apply for the grant, they have to address the filmmakers have to address what they think the potential impact will be if this film gets made, if the story gets told. And so these guys in Tanzania, they won that, and that came with an additional $30,000 check for them from the festival to put towards further impact. And they will get an additional million student viewers in Africa this year because of that. And so it's really it's exciting. We're
That's
loving it.
fantastic and impactful, of course, to have these accolades, to have this opportunity really facilitated through Schoolyard. That's great. And so let's shift now a little bit. Schoolyard, as I mentioned at the top of our webinar, has addressed a number of complex environmental topics, and none really more so than ocean plastics. What started as an initial project on ocean plastics has now evolved into a series on ocean plastics. I've got a
Mhm.
question for you about this topic, but before we get there, we'd love to show our viewers a quick overview of that project. We're going to play a
Okay.
brief clip, and then we'll get to the ocean plastics question. So we're going to
Okay.
take it away with the clip. This is a teaser of the new ocean plastics series coming out of Schoolyard Films, and then we'll get back to our questions.
I always see a lot of bottles in the ocean. That's not good for our ocean.
There's a tap of plastics flowing into the ocean.
We can repair that damage. There is still hope.
Plastic is a big problem because it's so long-lived.
I didn't realize that there's plastic in their bodies.
They think it's food.
It makes you want to make a change.
What if we could intercept plastic before it reaches the oceans?
They're one of the only organisms on the Earth that are able to degrade plastics.
Evil wins when good people do nothing.
Fight for what you think is good for our planet.
What you students are doing is more important than you know.
Now is the time to act before it becomes too late.
What an impactful clip and teaser for that ocean plastic series, Tom. So tell us, how did Schoolyard decide to work on this topic of ocean plastics, and how have these efforts evolved over the years?
Do you know, I mean, I think the topic came up. I think any diver who gets in the water, you're going to come across, unfortunately, some plastic pretty quickly. And so I, have been diving all around the world and have seen it. So it seemed like a no-brainer that we should do it. But I was pretty darn naive. I thought it would be a single film. And as we got into it, we realized, holy smokes, there's so much to tell and to try to cover that it became a three-part series. And then we added a fourth animated film just to kind of help with the history, business, and politics of plastics. And so we did that, and now we're at a very interesting time. We're always trying to figure out how to engage audiences, how to really make our impact on them, and so that teaser that you just saw, we've just come out with. We're still tinkering with, but it is leading up to the idea that. And I've now been doing it. I present the film live on stage, so big screens behind me, and I narrate live much of the film, and I'm learning. We have some things to work out, but it's exciting, and audiences so far have, I think, felt really engaged and sort of closer to it, and then the conversation that happens afterwards is pretty great. And our hope, our reason for doing this is that here's the plan. We will be, so we distribute all of our work through the internet on Apple Podcasts, PBS Learning Media, on our website, on a number of other sites. So we're going to start putting out that film. It's a 51-minute film, and we're cutting a version for PBS broadcast too, which I'm really excited about. So it's a good film. And so we're going to put out different versions of it so that a school can take it and they can have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their students take turns narrating different parts of the story. That would be great, and perform it for the school. They can have a school in England is taking it. They're a school of the arts, a high school, and their students are writing an original soundtrack, a score for it, and their musicians will be on stage playing the music while their other students will be, telling the story through narration. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we certainly are doing our best to try it. And I'm excited that it's sort of a, look at the different disciplines that go into telling that story. And I think that's a kind of a neat way to try to engage the whole school and the students in it on an important topic. So that's what we're doing. If I ever get invited back, maybe in a year, I'll tell you, whether or not we've been successful with it, but that's our hope.
Absolutely. And talk about impact, right? That's a very high impact activity to really bring ocean plastics to the fore.
Yeah.
And I think, many of our experiences have been that when you watch a film, you see a problem, right? But Schoolyard is also showing a solution to the problem of ocean plastics. And so my question has been, what's the response been? How have people responded to certainly seeing that there's a significant issue, but there's also, a solution to this, as we saw in the clip with scientists working on different organisms in the ocean and potentially bioengineering.
Sure.
What response have you seen from viewers, and is there a call to action?
So I think that there are 2 calls to action, and excuse me, one of them is really at a level that we can all, participate in and contribute to, and it's as simple as carrying around our own refillable coffee mugs and water bottles and shop, bring in your shopping bag so that you're not buying a plastic bag, every single day. And so there's a call to action along that level, and beach cleanups and all these things are important for us all to be doing. But there's a whole nother call to action. Those are great, but they're also just Band-Aids on the problem. Those, sadly, are not really fixing the problem. A beach cleanup is so great, but unfortunately, you're going to have to do it again next month because, it just keeps adding up. And so the other call to action is to advocate for change. It's to get involved. It's to write letters to your politicians. It's to make phone calls. It's really to try to let policymakers, people in power, know the concerns that we have. And so that's the call to action at that different level. I don't, have a gauge for. I hear nice stories from people, but it's hard to really gauge exactly what impact we're having right now. But we're doing our best to reach, people with the varieties that we can see. And, in our film, we certainly have some really cool science. I mean, at some point, we need someone to invent a replacement for plastic. Plastic, sadly, is an incredibly useful thing. So it's complicated. There's so much money involved in making it and selling it. And but honestly, do we need a lot of the single-use plastic that we all tend to, have been using pretty easily, we can certainly change a lot of that.
Well, thank you for all of your work with ocean plastic. It's been great to follow along these films and now this series, to see how it's evolved and to see the response that it's had. It's particularly impactful, as you've been mentioning, because throughout so much of this series, you have students that are narrating and that are really looking at the impacts of ocean plastics, which I think it really makes it all the more impactful.
Yeah.
And so you've certainly done a lot of work in ocean plastics. I have to ask, what are you working on now? What pipeline do you have for new projects and what are you looking forward to next?
Well, so we're just barely getting started on our Florida water series, and I'm really excited about that. It's nice for us to have work close to home and far away. So that's that's really what is next for us, and is also what's next is to finish ocean plastic, kind of put it to bed in the sense of giving schools the different versions that they can then run with and then see what happens in a year or two. So that's going on the local level. We have just funded 3 mentorship films for this year. They are all extinction stories, but they are extinction stories with hope to them, which sort of sounds funny, but they really are. And so those filmmakers are just getting going now. One is on his first shoot in New Zealand, and a gal producer in England is getting hers going. She's been shooting, and we've just greenlit one in Costa Rica. And so for this year, we'll have 4 films that Schoolyard will make, 3 mentorship about extinction and our water film.
That's exciting and certainly a lot of exciting projects to keep you and your team at Schoolyard busy for the next year. That's fantastic, and we can't wait to see the results. And
Thank
so
you.
after this conversation, I know certainly myself and many of our viewers are going to want to watch some of your latest projects. Are there any films that you would recommend, and how could we watch them?
Great. Okay. So I've just been chatting about our seagrass, and many of our stories come out of my TV assignments over the years, and which is sort of logical because I'll go somewhere and the research has been done and I get connected with the people who can help and I learn how to do it. And so there is a series right now on Apple TV called Earth Sounds. And I think their Shallow Seas episode, which is, I believe it's episode 11, has a seagrass and manatee sequence that I shot. And it was just so much fun to do. And it was the science in it was so interesting that I highly recommend people take a look at TV and Earth Sounds and their Shallow Seas episode. And we'll sort of do something similar to what they did, but really we will get into the science of seagrass restoration and rivergrass restoration too. And around my home state, there are many projects going on. And so we'll build that science, into our story. And as we usually do, I'm sure we'll do our best to find high school citizen scientists who are working with, the moat marine scientists, and we know that whenever we can build, young people into our stories, our audience is K through 12 for the most part, a little bit older too. But when people see their peer group doing interesting things and doing good work that matters and makes a difference, it's pretty inspirational. And so we absolutely will work with high school divers helping out in the seagrass planting. And so anyway, you can take a look at the Apple TV version.
Excellent. And just to add another plug here, I'm personally very excited to be heading to DC next month to check out your new exhibit at the Smithsonian. You filmed a project, and you want to tell our viewers briefly about that project?
Sure. I've done some, I really enjoy them. So for the museum, the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, they've asked us to do a number of multi-screen films, which can be, as a camera operator, really challenging to kind of wrap your head around how to tell a story that way. But last fall, I shot three. It's the series is Age of Humans, and our impact on the planet, and how to know really how to start getting back into balance. And gosh, one was in forests in Oregon, one was in the plains of Montana, and we did a mussel restoration film in Virginia, and they're all 4 screens across. For the same producer, the first time I worked for her, I did a 10-screen immersion film, which I don't recommend that anybody tries. It was, I don't have a lot of hair on the top of my head, but I've been pulling out a lot doing that one. That is for sure. But they're interesting challenges in terms of storytelling. And so these ones have been a little bit easier, but still really fun working out, how to tell them. So they're just opening up this month at Smithsonian in DC, and gosh, I hope some of you can go see them.
Absolutely. So between the Smithsonian, your work on Apple TV, and your upcoming PBS show on ocean plastics, we've got quite a bit of watching, which is all great. So I don't want to take any more of the time away from our viewers who have some questions in the Q&A. So please continue to put your questions in the Q&A. We've already received a couple. We're going to get through as many questions as we can. This is a really rare opportunity to ask your questions of a 6-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. We're going to start with Charlie. Charlie asks, what animal behavior has left the biggest impression on you?
What animal behavior, the biggest impression? Well, I guess so many stories jump to mind. And so one of them, I did a seahorse story in Australia. And it was really fun to shoot. As usual, we teamed up with scientists. And in order to film the whole process of a pair of seahorses, pairing up, and then the male getting pregnant, and the timing, they are so intertwined with the timing, because while he's carrying, the brood to term, she's working on the next batch of eggs, and finally. And within a day, she's inserting the next batch into him, so he's pregnant again, and it was just fascinating learning that much about seahorses and the way that we did it. And I hope that we fool the audience into thinking that it's just this seamless story, which you always want, but everything has to be based on, of course, on actual fact. But the way that I shot it was I would do 2 or 3 or 4 days in the ocean, and a scientist had already marked where pairs were, and it still would take me sometimes 20 or 30 minutes to find them. They're so well camouflaged. But I would shoot and shoot and shoot in the ocean, and then we'd take a break, and we'd put in 4 or 5 days in the Sydney Aquarium, where they had different pairs that they knew were getting close to giving birth. And so I was able to go back and forth, and with a macro lens, you certainly don't see that these ones are in an aquarium, but it's honestly the only way to get the shots that you need that are just going to be way harder. You'd need a lot more time in the field to do them all wild. And so I went back and forth between working with the scientists in-house and working in the ocean. And for me, it was just a joy to work that way and to learn that way, and to chip away with the camera at all the different pieces that we need to give to the editor to tell the most robust story. So that really was one of my favorites.
Absolutely. And the footage that you got from that is fantastic. You showed that when you visited Fairfield in
Oh,
September, and everyone really enjoyed it. So
hmm
that was an exciting shoot, and we appreciated getting to see it on campus. We've got
right.
another question from John. What area that you have filmed in gives you the most concern in terms of needing the highest priority and the most resources to address?
You know, I guess because of my work in the Arctic mainly, but also in Antarctica, climate change is just such a huge concern, and you see it more easily in the polar regions. And you know, to think where I've been up in the Lancaster Sound up north, it's now truly, you know, in the span of my career, it's become a very viable shipping lane. And it used to be, you know, full of ice and impassable for much of the year, sometimes for a few years. And so to see those changes happening so rapidly, um, to me is the most concerning. I mean, you can kind of find an environmental concern any direction you turn your gaze, but I think of those more often than not, and have had enough experiences down there that are personal and whether with other people that really can demonstrate how rapidly it's changing.
Absolutely. And the next question is, over your incredible 30-year career, how has technology advances changed the way you approach a shoot?
I love that. So in my early days, I was shooting film, and we'd get through a day of work and clean out the camera and store, you know, you wear these changing bags. You have to change the film in darkness. So your arms are in, and you do this and you store it, you get it safe. And then you have time at night to read a book or, you know, play some cards or whatever. And cameras then started getting better and better and went digital. And now we have everything that we do, we can immediately replay and see how we've done and get a feel for what also you need to do to fill out the sequence. It's a lot harder because, you know, unless you have a bigger team, you're going to be doing the data wrangling half the night. And if you've put in a long day of work, you kind of need some sleep. And if you set your alarm every few hours to change cards and drives, it's more challenging. But the quality of the cameras has just been getting better and better and better and better. And so we have many more tools at our disposal. And, you know, I used to go up in a helicopter with the camera mounted on this gazillion dollar, you know, stabilizer to get aerials. Well, now I can send up a $4,000 drone and do remarkably well. And even if we don't need drone shots, often we'll send up a drone to go scout for us and get the lay of the land that we can't see from, you know, my height of 6 feet above the water. And so the technology is changing fast and furious, and you know, you do your best to keep up with it, but it's really been helpful to us with what we can deliver to audiences, and the sort of the power of the images, I think is getting better and better because the cameras are getting better and better.
Absolutely. And as you and I have discussed, the advances in diving equipment as well has been significant. The rebreathers,
Yeah,
for instance, have given you greater access to different
yeah,
marine species. You're able to get closer without really the presence of bubbles,
yeah.
which has been another significant advance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And plus it gives you more time underwater, and you're just quiet, and if you're in cold water, you're breathing your same breath over and over again, and it's warmer than taking in compressed air. And anyway, rebreathers have also revolutionized underwater filmmaking. They've been great.
Absolutely. And so you already touched on drones. We had a question coming in from Pete about how drones have enhanced your capabilities to film, which you just answered for us with the role of technology. We've got just one more minute for questions. And so Kathy Kathy asked us, have you done any recordings of horseshoe crabs? At one point, PBS had a really great educational documentary, and it would be great to have an updated version. So give us a little bit of background. Have you worked with horseshoe crabs? Do you have any
Yeah.
projects planned with horseshoe
Oh,
crabs?
fun question. Yes, we did a horseshoe crab film in South Carolina. Uh, Probably it's been some years now, but maybe 12 or so years ago. Um, and it was one of the most fun projects we've done. I mean, just what fascinating animals and you know how our medical scientists use their blood and anyway, so but I suppose we could update that again because if it's been 12 years, it's probably time. It's a nice thing that we can do. For example, with our plastic series, we have a plastic resource page. And one of our team, he's just forever, when he finds anything that looks like it's new and interesting and different, he just puts it on up on the page and we can kind of keep things updating that way. We really, if we had the manpower, we do it with all of our stories and horseshoe crabs would be up there too. But anyway, if any of you ever get a chance to be on the beach during their mating season, it's pretty darn fascinating.
Absolutely. We're going to end here with one quick question. We mentioned earlier that your work is going to be exhibited at the Museum of Natural History. We have some guests, including Tracy, that are interested in seeing it. Could you tell us the name of the exhibit so that our viewers can check it out at the Smithsonian?
Yes. So the exhibit is being called the Age of Humans. Um, and gosh, I wish that I had made a call before this call to see if they have a specific opening date for it. When we shot these films last fall, we'd been told, generally speaking, it's going to be in May. May is right around the corner. But you'll have to get online and find out. Go to the museum and see what they say. But it should be soon. It should be very soon.
Excellent. So, The Age of Humans at the Smithsonian, your work on seagrass and manatees on Apple TV, and your upcoming movie on PBS on ocean plastic. We've got a lot to catch, but very exciting and very much looking forward to it. We've got a lot of thanks coming in through our chat and through the Q&A. Thank you for all that you do. And of course, thank you for being here tonight as our first webinar guest. Such a pleasure to have you, Tom, and to learn all about your craft and truly the expansive work that you've done and you continue to do. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Oh boy. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to share my work. And so I really appreciate being here. So thanks, everybody.
Thank
I
you.
see all
And so
sorts of great emojis and things that are sort of, going up. And there we go. A nice applause.
there we
Anyway,
go.
thank you, everybody.
Before we end tonight, we have just a little bit of parting information. If you'd like to learn more about the work of Tom and Schoolyard Films, we have the link here. You can find clips of some of Tom's videos, videos in full, and more information about Schoolyard and how to partner with Schoolyard on some of their projects. So please check it out. Encourage you to learn more about the terrific work that Tom and his team are doing. If this webinar has piqued your interest on the Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies, we also have opportunities for you to learn more about our center. You can visit us at fairfield.edu/cccms or follow us on Instagram. We just created our Instagram account and we have a social media presence, so we hope you'll follow us there to learn more about the work of the center. We have a lot of exciting news that'll be coming out soon. A special preview, we've had a student from the Center for Climate, Coastal, and Marine Studies earn the Goldwater Fellowship, which is the most prestigious award in the sciences. That's really exciting news that's come out recently. We'll be sharing that and much more news on our Instagram, so please do follow us. If you're interested in supporting our work, you can follow us at fairfield.edu/giveclimate. We are so appreciative of all gifts that go towards the center. All philanthropy and all gifts go directly to student and faculty that are doing this work. Fairfield University is so incredibly generous in providing all of the administrative needs of the center. So our promise to everyone that gives is that it goes directly to our faculty and students. As always, if you have any questions or if you'd like to learn more, please feel free to reach out over email. It's cccms@fairfield.edu. If tonight's webinar has piqued your interest about the work that we're doing at the center and the work of Tom, you can also listen to our podcast. The Coastal Call, the name of tonight's call, and our podcast, very conveniently, is on Spotify and iTunes. Just search The Coastal Call. Episode 1 is with our guest, Tom Fitz. We have 4 other episodes that are currently live and 2 more episodes that will be dropping in this first season in the month of May. We'll then resume with season 2 in September, so please do give us a listen. We're excited to share the Coastal Call podcast with you. Our thanks, of course, to Tom for being our inaugural webinar guest, to our alumni engagement team, Megan and Jessica, our advancement team at Lyra, all of our colleagues that are working tirelessly for the center, particularly PJ and our intern Audrey, our tech team, and all of our viewers. Thank you for being with us tonight to learn more about the incredible work of Tom, the work that our students and faculty are doing at Fairfield. We are ever so grateful for your support. Thanks for joining us all tonight. Be well and go Stags.
Go Stags. Thank you, everybody. Rob, thank you very much for having me.
Tom, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. Good night, everybody.